We are back for another episode of Backwoods Beta. This time, we're gonna do a question and answer based on episode number 1. We'll go through questions from the audience and just see where the discussion takes us.
This is exactly what I want to do with my life is crawl out of a cave, festooned with rubber like some sexual deviant.
Okay, there's a lot to be learned from foreign bodies in the rectum.
If that was effective training, I would be the best climber in the motherfucking world.
On industrial doses of tren.
You could grip with one hand and you could do all of those leisure time activities with the other hand. This is not fucking, Dr. Phil life advice. This is the shit that worked for us.
I think a lot of great questions.
Yeah.
Really, actually, we were saying that it's really actually quite impressive, the intelligence of this particular audience compared to what I've seen. Look, we've all been on the internet.
I've been part of the internet.
Yeah.
And I've been responsible for some nasty comment sections.
And anyway, the comments in episode 1 were really top tier. So the algorithm is clearly sending this out to the right people. So Thanks for being here. I think this makes a lot of sense intuitively. I don't really see the point in doing a lot of pull-ups or curls, as this never seems to be the reason I fail to send. I'm a relatively new climber also, 38 years old and fat, and so I should fall right into the category of just climb and train grip and ignore anything supplemental in my experience, which so far tracks. My highest yield is still from developing technique and from time on the wall, certainly. However, I notice that I keep tweaking my shoulder, so this is a recurring theme.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of problems I'm bottlenecked by shoulder strength or stability versus grip strength or technique. Obviously, this may be an inaccurate assessment given my level of experience, and shoulder strength and stability will also develop with time on the wall, but I can't help but feel doing a specific shoulder routine in the gym would fast track progress by quite a bit. I kind of like how you guys mentioned pinches. I'm not going to be targeting all the different muscles in my shoulders consistently or in the most effective manner by climbing random gym sets or even outdoors for that matter. Would it not be worthwhile to bulletproof my shoulders, so to speak, with a gym-specific routine? I think likely I would climb grades quicker I think likely I would climb the grades quicker if I just climbed and worked on grip, but at the risk of injuring my shoulder and pushing this bottleneck down the road further than it needs to be. Thanks again for putting this stuff out there. It's nice to have some clear signal in the space.
Yeah.
So that's an easy, non-controversial comment to start with.
Yeah, 100%. Go to the gym, fix a shoulder. Because it's like, I think, and that sort of recurred in some of the other comments, like I have this specific pain point and it stops me from getting enough time on the wall. And if that's the case, 100%. Go to the gym, fix that problem. I think we're talking.
Well, that was one of the we said there's a lot of edge cases and nuance and caveats to the general advice of just climb, and prehab and rehab falls squarely into that. Especially when you are on the earlier phase of the climbing progress curve, not getting injured really is one of your number one priorities, because injuries will 6 months at that stage is a huge setback.
I mean, you're literally in the exponential part of the curve. And, any injury is, I mean, I guess that's some part of the nuance that maybe we should have been more careful with. The first version was the first rule is like, don't get injured.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that is like.
Yeah, don't get injured. Absolutely.
Fucking don't get injured. It's funny because it's weird. Eventually, you will get injured. Like, it's an inevitable part of climbing. Quinn's gone to. I've gone to this.
Well, I've said this lots. Training through injuries. I've said it in other videos. Is part of the game.
Yeah, 100%. And.
But it's part of the game, especially when you're more advanced, training through those injuries.
100%.
When you're first starting out, injury avoidance.
And even when you're advanced, like.
Yeah, don't get it. Exactly.
I mean,
the kinds
let
of
the last go.
The kinds of injuries you get when you're more advanced are even more catastrophic, right?
Yeah, because you put your body in a really a disadvantageous position. It's something.
Well,
like,
you're also more robust to injury, right?
Yeah.
I almost never get injured anymore, but if I do, I've probably torn the bone off. The tendons probably come off the bone,
and
right?
and it tends to,
like, for example, a lot of people have
I had a persistent hammy issue.
Well, and you're lucky, right? Because a lot of people just have the hamstring detach, and then you need a bone anchor to put it back on, and a serious recovery period from that, because you have to go ginger for a long time to build that back up.
Yeah, and that would be one of the areas where, again, like I was doing a lot of the same move on a pretty heavy heel hook, and it started aching badly, and that was another time where, like, I had to go to the gym. I had to do the goofy hamstring curls just to get enough work to sort of get over that, like, specific pain point.
So I'm sort of seeing two categories of nuance that we're discussing. There is rehab, general preventative rehab, like what the commenter was asking,
right?
And then there's specific issue rehab, and both of which are reasons to weight train.
100%. But I think, again, what do they call it? In sort of like your hierarchy of where you spend your time and your recovery capital, basically, and like, I didn't deal with the hamstring issue preemptively because I didn't know my hamstrings were going to be an issue.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that.
Because my hamstrings were strengthened enough through climbing that I'd never had a hamstring issue until I hit this one point where it was like a savage amount of weight on that specific hamstring, and it started sort of flaring up. Like,
well, we said there's 600 muscles in the human body.
Yeah.
All of them can be an issue.
Right.
You can't preemptively train all 600. There's not enough time, and it would be a massive opportunity cost.
Yeah.
You'd be better off doing.
Although, if you watch, who's the YouTube fella there?
All of them, really.
They have a specific workout for every muscle in your body.
Yeah.
Have fun. But I guess one more point I was going to make.
I think we can wrap this one up, as we can basically say, something like shoulders, they are so key and so important that I absolutely would recommend that you do a shoulder-specific strength training routine.
Yeah, and I will say also...
something like hamstrings?
Yeah.
Like, you wait until you have an issue.
Yeah.
So these should get faster because there's going to be recurring themes.
Yeah.
And as well as,
and also, by the way, that was a fucking book of a comment. Like, thanks for writing that. That was, it's nice to see.
That'll be a recurring theme. Although we've got a short one next. Almost turned into a nature documentary at 6 minutes and 56 seconds.
It's turning into a nature documentary again.
Yeah. Now, plot twist. They're both girls. We're very progressive here on the Backwoods podcast. I've pondered about how much strength is needed for climbing for a while. I have digestive issues, and a side effect is that I flip-flop between being strong to being weak, a significant measurable difference, and this lasts for months. I've noticed that my climbing grade doesn't change as much as the delta in strength. However, I do notice that I can't progress as fast. Having strength lets me explore more movement. Also, once you have enough strength, it is easy to keep working it in climbing, but bootstrapping that strength sometimes requires supplementary work. I could never do a drop knee in climbing until I did specific exercises to strengthen my legs in that position, and now I can use them while climbing. My take is that supplementary training is useful if it gives you the strength to train movement that you need for climbing.
Same sort of deal, right?
Honestly, I need more information about the level. There's, like just some more specifics around this particular. Like, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good.
This was like the best comment.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information in this comment, but I don't really disagree with anything. Or you know what I mean? Like,
There's nothing. It's more of like an anecdote.
This is an interesting anecdote, and there's nothing that I find it interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I found this comment interesting and valuable, so thank you.
Yeah.
And let's see what's next.
It did kind of put us in the weeds there because it's complex enough of a situation to be like.
Well, because basically what it does is it makes us rehash the entire previous conversation,
totally.
Right? And we'll end up in the same place.
Yeah.
Where climbing and grip is the most important, and there are times, and there is a time and place for supplementary strength training.
100%.
Like, that's the summary here, right?
Yeah.
And you know, we can go. It'll bring us right back into.
We're gonna hit a circular. You know.
I'm 6'3" and I train in the gym 2 to 3 times a week. I guess it's better late than never to discover I don't need to train as much.
Well, yeah, 2 to 3 times a week in the weight gym at 6'3", those are probably would be more, that time would be more productive spent in like actually climbing, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, forget about it.
Sure.
That's
at 6 at like look at 6'3".
Unless you like weight training. I mean, if bodybuilding's a hobby for you, but it's counterproductive to your climbing. I mean, like what, you know, imagine, especially at a frame that size. I mean, at 6'3", you want to be light.
Yeah, every pound of muscle you put on this knot in your forearm is
a problem. And
well, if you want to reach it, you know, your genetic potential.
Yeah, if you want to reach your genetic potential as a climber. I mean, this is
unfortunately those pounds of muscle are going to have to come off, and taking muscle off is seriously.
It's not that difficult, but
okay.
I mean, you know, body composition is a topic for an entire video.
Yeah.
If I ever want to get my channel nuked off of YouTube from the comment section.
Totally.
Just raging. If you want to be an elite climber, you need the body morph of an elite climber.
Yeah.
If you want to be an elite swimmer, you need the body morph of an elite swimmer. If you want to be
look around.
if you want to be an elite cyclist, you need a body that looks like an elite cyclist. If you are 6'3" and you're hitting the weight gym, you're not going to look like an elite climber.
No, totally.
You got to be careful.
At that tall, number one, there aren't a lot of climbers in that height.
It's hard to be an elite climber at 6'3".
Yeah,
frankly.
you're
disadvantaged.
You're already struggling uphill, and I mean, there's 2 body morphs there, and one is much rarer than the other. They're both relatively
that's an
thin,
interesting
and
point.
if they look big, like say Jimmy Webb, who looks big for a climber at that height,
he's light though, and
he's light. I think he's like my weight, and he's got fucking Christmas hands for forearms.
Yeah.
So it's like, and if you look at his knuckles, it's like those hands are seeing a lot. You know, they're seeing that's the type of abuse you see in like career mechanics at 60. So
Jim. I mean, Jimmy has classic findings of arthritis in his hands when you see pictures of them.
Yeah.
Like
so like, yeah. Again, I'd be careful putting on a ton of extra weight. Like you're at that height, putting on the extra weight in your back.
Or anywhere. Legs, back.
Yeah, legs. Stay away. I mean, you know, do yourself a solid. Stay away from the fucking squats and deadlifts. Like, big old thunder thighs at 6'3" is going to be a problem.
There are 2 body.
Now just to say one more thing. One more thing.
We'll summarize though. The 2 body morphs for elite climbers at that height are the extreme ectomorph, extremely low body fat percentage, and they look heavier than they are. If you put those guys on the scale, they're 160 pounds
because
maybe, right?
They're shredded.
They're shredded 160, and they look big because, you know. And then the other, so maybe Dave Graham though is the better ectomorph example, right? Totally. And then there's the Jan Hoyer.
Yeah.
You know. And that is a body morph that.
But even Jan Hoyer, I don't think was much more.
They're not that heavy. See, that's
it's like 160, 170.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And he wasn't that, like those guys are all topping out. They're 6 foot.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So like,
that's right.
You've got 3 inches on them. Those 3 inches carry a weight penalty. I'd be careful about. Now, the other side of it to point out is like, this is assuming that climbing is sort of the all-consuming passion in your life.
No, I mean, look, I mean, that's the assumption we make in this discussion. I mean, it's my all-consuming, it's our all-consuming passion. And so, I mean, like the decision, like, you know, do you want to start going after a body morph for your sport? I mean, that is a commitment, right?
Yeah.
You know, it might just be you just want to climb and make progress, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate choice as well. But, you know.
It's not sort of the focus. There are lots of channels on how to get jacked.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short is that when you're assessing the body morph of elite climbers, it's hard to do through the screen because anytime that you're very, very lean, you'll look relatively more muscular, but you'd be surprised at the weight on the scale. It's lighter. It's lighter than you'd think. 100%. And when you are tall like that, you can end up like an NHL player, you know, 190, 200.
Yeah, easily, without even looking.
Yeah, easy peasy.
In clothes, you're going to look identical to Jan Hoyer or
exactly
Adam
yeah,
Ondra.
That's right. Yeah, but that isn't the build of an elite climber.
Yeah, that's 40 extra pounds. That's a big fucking backpack to be carrying.
Yeah,
on small holes.
So so congratulations. You can
you got more climbing time. So
more climbing time. All right.
Well, and I mean, one more thing to say on that one. Yeah, I think you can get at that height, you could get bamboozled into the gym pretty easily if you're following the average YouTube climber fitness advice.
I'm not sure what that even looks like.
Yeah,
I'm just assuming what it looks like.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a little more spice in the next comment. Nothing wrong with limit bouldering and taking long rests 3 to 5 minutes to avoid fatigue. That way, you give each try your max effort multiple times. Basic strength training.
Okay, now I should take this one to sort of. At this point, that's really all I want to do. I do, the grip training to sort of counteract how bad that training is, but I love that. Like, if I was a dog, one repping on hard shit would be like me chasing balls and shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's
a peanut butter, a Kong full of peanut butter.
Yeah. I look, I love it. It's the best. Unfortunately, in my experience,
I guess what?
Okay, no, if that was effective training, I would be the best climber in the motherfucking world. Like, straight up. If that made you
Also, if that was effective training, this wouldn't be the guy who would tell you that doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I would be evangelical about how
you'd be shouting it from the rooftops.
Yeah. That would be like, what would I say?
The fact that you push back at all on that statement.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's just from,
At this point, look. All right, let me say another thing. If, my entire, to the extent that like I've thought about training or whatever, the entire motivation for training was to be able to do as much one rep in or max effort climbing or whatever.
Yeah,
as possible.
You literally trained to one rep.
Yeah, I literally trained.
You trained to do more of what
just to counteract, the negative effects of doing that all the time, and also to build enough fitness that I could do that more.
Yeah.
And so like
totally.
When I go to the gym now, all I do is that, and then afterwards I do
basically the opposite.
I do the grip training, so I get enough volume in the exercise to kind of. That at the end of the day, I actually, my muscles get a reasonable dose of work, right? But like, I love that more than anything. And like, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm laughing, guys, because you have no idea how much he loves one repping. It's absurd. You've gotten into fights with friends over it. Because your behavior at the boulders was so outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten in.
You got to fight with your brother, family, friends,
and we're not talking like, yell at each other fights.
We're talking like I'm getting on a plane and leaving because I can't take your bad behavior anymore.
Right, exactly. So like
to a pathologic, because to a pathologic degree.
There's nothing.
And so
nothing I love more than that.
So we get it. If
But what I'm saying.
That could just be a younger version of yourself.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say.
That's
right.
You guys are idiots.
But this is the problem.
One repping's the way.
But that's the problem. Is like I'm telling you, bro. Like, yes, it's fun. It's the best. It's literal. It's climbing's the closest thing in climbing to like cocaine. Like, it is delightful. I love it more than anything. And I'm telling you, as an old, this is like AA for one repping dudes. Please, I know it's the best. Do one other thing. Do a grip besides that, and then you can one rep to your heart's content. You can have the best time climbing.
Well, you'll get to do more one rep.
And you'll get to do more one rep. This is the path to more one reps, and it's like, so. Yeah, but that's somebody who would be like me, who there's something they want to do, aka one repping.
Yeah.
And they found a shitty paper somewhere or some.
Well, we'll get into that later.
Somebody has told them that is an okay thing to do, and they're, the confirmation bias, they're clinging to it, which I have done. That's been me.
I mean, here's the fact is that I have some experience in this realm too. That's how we started out training as well. Strength training 101.
Yeah.
As was.
Well, you guys were doing.
What was the comment exactly? Basic max strength training. Yes. Yeah.
We did rip toe too.
Well, it's a trap. You're going to plateau, and you'll have no way forward. And that is actually a lot of the impetus behind the Grip Gain series. Yeah. Like 10 years of that, and the mistake, and and the trap that it represents.
Yeah.
And then how do you find your way out and actually start making real progress?
Yeah, totally.
Because you will. I mean, you'll rocket ship up, and then you'll spend the I mean, we know climbers who actually, we know climbers who did what you did, and never wisened up and got reasonable.
Yeah.
And they spent a decade.
Well, that climber is me.
Well, me too.
That was me. I spent
better part of 10 years just flat.
Working lines and working beta. And I loved it. It was the best.
Well, and when you're on that plateau, you can trick yourself too, thinking like, I'm making progress.
And it's like, you make progress every day. It's like literally you come away from every session thinking you're a combined like genius and the strongest, you're on the rocket ship to success. And look, I love it. I love it more than anything. It is the fucking best. But eventually, and I'm telling you, if
your past self, of course, wouldn't be convinced by this conversation, right? And so, the commenter in question here won't be convinced by what we're saying. So it's really not. So it's not really for them, It's
sure,
But if you find yourself in the situation where your climbing is stagnated and you're doing that style of training, and you're 5 years in, maybe you'll remember.
Yeah. And I'm again.
Maybe this.
You'll remember this conversation. This is what convinced me was you can still do that as much. You can even do more of it. You get more of the stuff you like in climbing.
Yeah.
And you improve. You noticeably improve, and you could do the thing that you had the time of your life one repping on for 10 years. You get it done, and you can move on to something else.
Well, and here's the flip side, right? So when I was on that plateau, I nearly quit climbing because I couldn't find a way forward.
Yeah.
I was stuck for years.
Well, we had the two opposite problems where I was happier than pig and shit to just stay there.
Just to be stuck.
Because I was just like, this is, full mad scientist mode, like touching holds and like envisioning things and like, but I will say the downside at the end of it is when you spend 10 years mad scientisting your way out of something, and then somebody just does it because they're stronger than you, measurably stronger than you.
Yeah.
It's a little heartbreaking.
Ben had a project that was, how long did you work Kodiak? Because you got to include Grizzly.
Yeah. I mean,
so you said Grizzly was 2 years, and then Kodiak was a variation on Grizzly.
Yeah. It was probably 3, maybe 4 years after that.
So we're looking at a total of
from Grizzly until the start of me climbing with you in sand.
So Ben had a project that was 5 to 6 years long.
Yeah.
And then another buddy of ours who is a genetic specimen of strong climbing.
Seb manhandled it. It was
in front of you.
Yeah.
In front of Ben.
It was and I gotta say,
like 20 minutes. Like 20 minutes.
I came up with 17 different betas. They were all beautiful. They were all like just like chef's delight fucking betas. And Seb did it.
It was under an hour.
It was like watching a monster truck crush like 12 like tiny Honda Civics. It was.
And that was a turning point in your climbing because you were crushed by like
right. That felt really bad.
Well, it downgraded the climb 3 grand. Well, because you had an idea what you thought it might be, and it obviously just wasn't.
Yeah, totally.
It got triple downgraded.
Yeah.
And your entire conception of, the value of one repping as a viable, as the best strategy.
Yeah, and again, I still love it. It's the best. Yeah. Like, if you don't like one repping, we got different brains. Like, it's.
And so my story was slightly different. I ended up getting frustrated with the lack of progress because I'm a very goal-orientated person.
Yeah. And
I tried. I mean, that was the Cambrian explosion of like wacky training devices,
literally, like your garage was full of.
It was like mad scientists, full on.
It looked like a saw dungeon of devices to like stick your body into.
Yeah, and because I was just madly, frustratedly looking for a way forward.
Yeah,
and I came, and I came close to just calling it because I couldn't find the way forward.
And it's like. I mean, there's a thing here.
And I wasn't one repping on the wall like you. I was doing the basic strength training. Just you were hoovering up like every kind of point that Well, that point right there. I mean, that was my philosophy.
Overcoming gravity. You hit literally every.
That was my philosophy, and it was a dead end. So
and it's like. I can't blame people for sort of being like, well,
it works so well.
Go ahead.
It works so well at first.
Yeah.
It works super well at first. And then you'll find your plateau.
Or you'll make quantifiable progress, and then you'll go out and climb, and that quantifiable progress kind of like
evaporates into the complexity of actual rock climbing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've crushed that question, I would say. So thank you. Thanks for that. Oh, another question coming in. Oh, Jesus, we're never going to end. Okay. We have a question from Mobeta Paywall Bypasser.
Best name.
nice username. The people yearn for more Ben.
Thanks, bro. Unfortunately...
my response to that is that you've been here for 2 weeks and we filmed every single day.
Yeah.
So the next 2 months.
Guess what? If you don't like this shit, a lot of it's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, you just click off and the algorithm won't show you our stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a solid 2 months of band content coming your way.
You're gonna have to fill your YouTube days with Eric Horse for a couple months.
Oh, Matt. Okay, we got a compound question here. I've got several questions. Let's see. Number one, how about strength hypertrophy training for injury prevention? Okay, we answered that.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. Like,
we didn't. 100%.
That wasn't really in the context of the previous episode, so we didn't address it much there. But but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
2, wouldn't shoulder stability impact your ability on the wall to a point where it's productive to train? No. Well.
Okay, so this we talked a lot about this.
I mean, we spent 20 minutes on that. The answer is yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That falls into prehab though in my category, rather than.
Well, you could make an argument that the better you can control where your body is relative to a hold, that really materially affects how good the hold is. But the other side of it is
but the shoulder work.
A lot of that comes just from climbing.
The shoulder work I'd be doing is rotator cuff.
Yeah.
And rotator cuff isn't what you're describing.
Yeah. And all of the rest of that.
Rotator cuff is just stabilizing the the humeral head.
And I would say I guess the other part of that is, and you're going to get a lot of that work just by climbing.
I agree. So
it's going to be specific.
So I think to bring this to something with more concrete. I would suggest that you work the rotator cuff specifically, and let the large muscles of the shoulder, the deltoids, look after themselves through climbing. The deltoids, the lats. I mean, those are all technically, even pec major. They're all technically shoulder muscles, right? Like they move the humerus relatively. And so, in terms of shoulder stability. Focus on this tiny muscles that you're actually not going to you'll never actually get proper rotator load.
Well, and remember how disgusting it is to do prehab on rotator cuff muscles because they never get a lactic acid load. They're never
exactly.
It feels like you're gonna vomit.
Yeah, and they are, in fact, because of the fact that 1, they stabilize the joint, and 2, they're only technically the primary flexor in extreme positions. in limited ranges of motion.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely hit the rotator cuff as a separate entity.
Yeah, 100%. And again, except for edge cases, you're probably going to get enough volume climbing to deal with every other big muscle.
Yeah, exactly. Pec major, pec minor, lat, deltoid.
Yeah.
Those are all big muscles. Don't worry about them. Yeah. Okay. What do you think about periodized strength training blocks? A few strength building blocks, maybe 2 4 week throughout the year. They don't build strength. In 4 weeks, you're not going to actually add significant.
I think it's going to be impossible to tell your progress there from basically.
It's still the same thing. It's still the same thing we were saying, right? So in a 4 week block, you're really just getting better at the movement. So you're going to see sick gains on whatever you're doing, bench press, biceps, whatever it is. But a lot of that is going to be.
You're just going to do your curls a little better.
Yeah, exactly. You're having significant neuromuscular coordination gains. And then the other issue is that in 4 weeks,
well, you've talked a lot about this. Look, you don't build strength, really.
You can look at Miss Olympia, Olympia category bodybuilders, right? These guys are like, maxed out on animal doses of tren, right?
Chicken and broccoli.
Yeah. Right. And in an entire year of training, those guys can put on, in the realm of, like on the come up phase when they're first coming up, and they're adding 20 pounds a year.
Yeah.
Right.
So
of actual lean tissue, body wide.
Yeah.
And they're
So 4 weeks is not going to do much.
Yeah. So exactly. So and this is a competitive bodybuilder focusing on hypertrophy on industrial doses of tren, and they're adding on average in a 4 week period 2 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. And so
over their entire body.
Yeah.
So think about what that means on your bicep.
Yeah. For an average person.
Yeah.
So if you are on industrial, and the caveat being, actually, if you are, if you're going down that road and you're an enhanced athlete, I can't give you advice, actually.
Yeah. You need
find your own way.
Yeah.
That's not what we do.
A lot of our advice is not going to be.
Yeah, it's not going to be relevant. It's not what we do. And actually, I mean, 4 weeks of strength, if you are doing anabolic steroids, who knows? I mean,
you could actually be a measurable change.
Could be totally reasonable.
But I will say, so as an experiment,
you're probably still going to get worse at climbing.
Yeah.
In fact, guys, we've known people who use anabolic steroids for climbing.
Yeah.
The guys we've known who've done a cycle of steroids, it's imperceptible.
Yeah.
And in fact, that actually just gets back to the thesis of the strength. Is bodybuilding really good?
I would say this. Ethically, I'm not against doing steroids. And if I looked around and I saw case studies of obviously enhanced athletes that were way, way better, we'd have to have different podcasts.
Yeah.
Because I'd be doing this, but for, industrial doses of tren.
Yeah. But that comes with a whole host of.
Yeah. No,
if your goal is to climb long for as hard as possible.
That's probably not it.
It's not it. It just isn't.
And it just
isn't.
Like we said, the case studies there wasn't an obvious improvement to the point where it was worth everything that came with it. So.
Well, lifelong testosterone supplementation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
increased coronary artery disease.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
All right, and there was one more on that question. We had, would your recommendation change for sport climbers? Well, you had an easy answer to this last time.
It's a little harder. I'd be more hesitant to place bets on sport climbers. But the other side of it is there are lots of cases where you see people who are, like in this we talked about, basically equivalent. Adam Ondra is the obvious example. Magos, where they're pretty close in terms of the ranking in the world in sport and bouldering. So it's unlikely that it's unlikely that there's a huge difference in strategy between. I mean, you probably want to do longer gripping.
Yeah. So
I'll
answer this more simply.
Yeah.
It's just a change in emphasis. There's no difference in bouldering and sport climbing in terms of the fundamental way that you'd prepare for that. Your emphasis shifts slightly. It's exactly analogous to if you're a cyclist and you're training for
hills
versus sprints, right? And you do actually see cyclists at
body shape change a bit.
Well, yeah, sure, but that's a different issue, I think. But ultimately, you can have one athlete who excels in all domains.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
and I mean, I guess the other side of it,
and you do a little bit of you do a little bit of work specific for the duration of the event that you're targeting.
Yeah.
And so obviously.
Well, I would say if we couldn't.
But the question isn't like how should you be a sport climber versus how should you be a boulderer, because obviously you change emphasis.
Yeah.
The question is, does the recommendation regarding the importance of supplementary weightlifting change?
Yeah, no, I was kind of like
absolutely not.
If anything, I'd be more hesitant to recommend weightlifting to sport climbers.
Yeah, because there is a problem right around the corner here where, a buddy Seb is going to come down and crush it in one. Our buddy Seb is going to come down and crush that line in 20 minutes. And for me, it'd be 10 sessions.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to do it in 20 minutes like Seb, I actually would have to weightlift.
Yeah, totally.
The thing is,
I mean, weightlifting. Yeah, I get the point you're making is.
I know, and
weightlifting,
the problem is
body mass is more advantageous and less of an issue on single moves. You can get away with more body mass on single moves than you can on long technical boulder problems.
Yeah. So that raises the question as to, well, why don't I just what doesn't that contradict everything we just said? The answer is no.
I don't want to do single move problems.
Single move problems don't appeal to me.
Yeah.
Seb specializes in them. If you're watching this, Seb,
and like Seb is the thickest dude. Seb looks like the Russian villain from Rocky 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
If he dies, he dies.
He's fucking monstrous. And so looking at that, it's like, if anything, I would definitely not recommend lifting a lot of weights if you want to be good at sport climbing.
Well, because ultimately what would happen is that even if I could spend a whole year lifting weights and I still I'm not going to be Seb.
Yeah.
It won't turn me into Seb.
Yeah.
It's not. It may or may not even help on that line, to be honest. I probably would have a better chance just by rehearsing. Getting to it isn't the issue, right? I'm getting to it, so.
The only reason I would sort of recommend lifting weights for what would probably be 5 years to turn your body into Seb's body would be if you wanted to do exactly what Seb does.
And it wouldn't even work.
Yeah.
Because the athletes who are sprinters and the athletes who are hill climbers in cycling, they're born, they're not trained, right? Totally. The guys find their niche because that's the fiber type distribution in their muscles is genetically different.
Yeah.
They respond to training differently.
And I guess, and the only reason I would possibly is if you just found unlimited joy from doing those types of problems that you couldn't find anywhere else.
It's true. I mean, you can always try to force yourself.
And it's weird. It's weird that
you can try to force yourself into a niche that you're not that isn't your genetic optimum.
That doesn't generally happen. People like to do the thing they like. They're good at.
Yeah, they're good at. I mean,
I went down that road. I went right to the lines that I liked. You go to the lines you like.
Exactly. You found the perfect line.
Me, you, and Seb, in terms of the lines that we've done.
You worked yesterday on the line that appealed to me the most. You're drawn to where your talent.
Well, it's a thing. I'm specifically bad at. It's so easy for me to be. Wow, what a disgusting form of climbing.
Exactly.
I don't like it.
Yeah. We don't like it because people are drawn to where their talents lie.
Yeah, exactly.
And my talents don't lie there.
Yeah, 100%.
Neither do yours. And Seb's talents don't lie. On 20 move slabby lines.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to be.
Slabby, fucking 20 degrees overhanging, I guess. But
it's 20 degrees. Yeah, 20 degrees overhanging, but slab feet.
Yeah, totally. Slab feet and slab hands.
Slab feet and slab hands. All right. It's funny. I don't train anything specific anymore like I used to. I used to train for one-armers and can rep them now, but not as many as my peak, and yet I feel better on the wall. Okay, so I'll just, this goes on, but I'll stop there and just quickly address that. Absolutely. I'm in the exact same boat.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, anecdotally, there are tons of people like that.
Yeah.
When I was training for one arms, I was banging sets of 10. I didn't climb that great, and then I stopped focusing on one arms, and I just focused on climbing, and now I'm doing 3 grades harder than banging 10 sets of 10 one-armers. It's like, one-armers.
Yeah, I can barely manage one now.
Well,
I went from sets to now I can barely manage them, and I'm climbing so much better.
When I got a little bit lucky in this sense, but like when I was coming up, one of the first videos I saw was young Dave Graham.
Yeah.
At that point, literally the prodigy.
Yeah.
Beautiful small things, trying to do one-armers.
Yeah. I remember the video.
Right after he does, runs every hard line in Bishop, Spectre, Mandela, Spectre, Mandela, the Buttermilker, literally every hard thing at that point in Bishop, like walks up it, and then can't do a single one armor in somebody's basement, and it was like, all right, I guess it's not one armors, bro. Like,
well, there's another one. He's on that sport climb with that is the Spanish guy on that like overhanging.
With Danny Andrade, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and same thing in that Danny's just banging one arms.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Danny Andrade probably does 15 one arms up that. What was it called?
It doesn't. It
was a super deep Alley Hulk or something.
Alley Hulk.
Alley Hulk extension.
Well, Graham got it done.
And Dave Graham got like fucking knee bar pad, 2 knee bar pads on his shins, knee bar pads on his shoulders, like, and he's crawling up it like like a fly, and it's like, but the thing is, on some level, Seb would have looked at.
Seb would
Danny Andrade and been like, I want to be that guy.
I want to be that guy.
And I looked at Freak Show Dave Graham, fucking pads everywhere, and it was like, well, this is obviously beautiful. This is is the most, he's got fucking fans on like poles and ladders and everything. I was like, dude,
that gets me going.
Yeah, this is exactly what I want to do with my life is crawl out of a cave, festooned with rubber like some sexual deviant.
Like the gimp in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Release the gimp.
Yeah.
Bring out the gimp.
He kept him in a cage at the bottom, and he fucking, but like the different fucking, different lanes,
So, carrying on, I've also been trying to fatigue myself as much as possible in my fingers just doing climbing drills, and doing this at least twice a week together with one route setting day and a technique focused day has made me feel the best I've ever felt on the wall. Yeah, I mean,
he's young Jeezy. Basically.
Well, your experience just matches ours exactly. Yeah. And you guys mentioned hangboarding supplementary to fatigue the fingers even more. My problem with that is it's just incredibly boring. I do feel like it works though. Is there any way to make it less boring? Yeah, so that's the meat of this question.
We both do, I think, something similar. Like I just have, so I get your the crusher and the micro, and now I just do it in my office at work. I got whatever it is, about 100 pounds of weight, just like water containers, and I just watch YouTubes or I figured I've done everything I can to make it unboring.
Well, I just do what I'd be doing anyway.
Short of VR.
I mean, but like realistically, right? Everybody has a lot of leisure time. Everybody has leisure time in their day.
Yeah. Basically,
time when you're not doing something productive. Like, let's be honest.
And most of that you only need one hand for. So you can grip with one hand, and you can do all of those leisure time activities with the other hand.
I've got a setup where I've got a gripping machine that literally holds my body in the position, and all that I'm doing is engaging with my fingers.
Yeah.
And I just, I pop on something to watch, and I just sit there doing what I'd be doing laying in bed anyway.
Yeah, totally.
And instead I've got something in my hands, so yeah. I mean,
if you got to do it at the gym because, you don't have some kind of grip implement or hangboard or whatever.
That's more of a problem. Because that's
I listened to the podcast. I had to quit though because I look like such a psycho in the corner of the gym, like kicking the ground trying to get through sets.
Yeah, you know that. Yeah.
But
it's unpleasant for sure. That's a different. The unpleasantness is different from the boredom, though.
Grip exercises are unpleasant and boring, and in order to adhere to any protocol, you absolutely have to figure out some way to make it less boring.
Less boring. It's never going to get less unpleasant, but just less boring.
Yeah, totally.
And there are a variety of strategies, but honestly, you can sit here chilling like we're chilling, and with the pulley set up in your fingers.
Yeah, I could be
gripping right now.
Yeah, totally.
So that's what I do. Loved the opinionated discussion. It almost feels like physicists explaining the fundamental principles of moving objects aren't that difficult after all. But what left me a bit puzzled: if climbing is training, how can I navigate around overuse injuries? Swollen ring finger PIP joint since months flares up with climbing, even though I reduced to 1 to 2 shorter bouldering sessions per week with a lower grade.
you got to rehab that shit.
Yeah, rehab it.
I mean, this is the thing you talk about. You've got to figure out a way to.
You got to find a way forward. In climbing, you're going to train through injuries. You're going to get. There's going to be injuries.
And I will say, the better your grip, the less susceptible you are to overuse injuries, because you're not forcing your hands into weird positions to try to get an increment of a little bit of extra gain or whatever. And the more resilient your fingers are to the abuse that comes with climbing. So it's
that's right. Yeah, because now,
and this is another
they will adapt over time. The tissues, a lot of these, swollen joint issues do resolve themselves, and they resolve themselves by your entire hand getting.
Yeah, and I've got my joints are swollen. Your joints are swollen. Everybody
permanently.
Yeah, everyone's joints are. And now at the other side,
you don't want to end up like Jimmy though. He's got signs of significant arthritis.
Yeah. And the caveat here would be, there is going to be a point where whatever your specific edge case problem is.
Yeah.
You have to.
We could do a whole.
That's got to be fixed by a medical professional.
Yeah.
But on average, and it's every person has to make a decision there about like what that point is. But on average, the advice would be.
Well, it's the advice that I do in the grip gain series. Ergonomic training.
Ergonomic training and. Rebalance it. I would probably, if it was me and I was having those hand issues.
Well, if it was me and I was having those hand injuries, I would invent the micro.
Yeah, and
then train
and
on
I would
that.
rebalance. I would do a lot more training on the micro. I had before I came down here, I had a bit of some kind of tweak in my index finger because I was
the micro has cured honestly a lot of my hand tweaks.
And so before coming down
because
here,
we're strength training in a controlled, perfectly ergonomic fashion.
Yeah.
And then I'm so much more robust on the rock. I used to get painful swollen knuckles basically every session, like you're describing.
Right. And so I just rebalanced. I cut the time in the gym down a little bit and did more training just because I didn't want to get an overuse injury
until you get your tissues are more robust, and then you can go back to one rep until your heart's content.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so I need to stop training one arms? Unhappy smiley. Also tell Ben I stayed until the end, not because I'm autistic, but just stubborn.
I mean, I hate to tell you, bro. No. I mean, look. If you like training one arms, train one arms. I don't give a fuck.
It's not going to make you better at climbing, probably.
This is just sort of like, look.
But why?
The only thing we're saying here, we're idiots. We're two people who have, like, on some level, a certain direction that intrigues us in climbing, and that intriguing direction, it used to involve one arms for Dave. I never liked them, but Quinn liked one arms.
Yeah.
He's,
I have short. Well, you know what?
I have
short little Tyrannosaurus Rex arms, and I'm good at them.
I have fucking horrible pterodactyl wings, and
it didn't take me a lot of work to do them.
Right, exactly. And for me,
I was just attracted to something I was good at.
Yeah. So the angle here is like, this is not fucking, Dr. Phil life advice. This is the shit that worked for us and the shit that like didn't seem to measurably add. And I can say for us, you got a one arm hater and a one arm lover.
And both of us are saying they
both of us converged to no one arms. So if you love one arms, keep doing them. Do you?
Yeah, do you.
There's a lot of fish in the sea or whatever. But like for us, it didn't seem to add much. Like AKA nothing or even negative.
Yeah,
influence.
even negative. Yeah.
But like,
this is just a comment. So, great discussion. Really makes me think, and that's fantastic. I have found that as climbing has gained importance to me personally, I climb more often, and non-grip strength training has fallen away naturally. I haven't thought it through completely, but I can't argue with you guys. Thanks so much. I'll start and say that's exactly my experience. I mean, I put a lot of thought into it, of course, but it just fell away.
No. You need one good outdoor season, and
you start.
It's probably going to happen naturally.
It just happens naturally.
Yeah. And the question is whether you should let that process happen naturally,
exactly,
or whether you should fight it. And in our experience, it was a mistake to fight it.
Exactly.
Yeah. just was.
I suspect many coaches prescribe weights evangelically because that's what they know and are qualified for. If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more. There is a proscribed method to getting huge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
do 8 to 12 reps on
a
a range of exercises and do anabolic steroids. Like, the answer is there. That's a solved problem.
Yeah,
climbing is interesting because it's not a solved problem yet.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I also answered this one too because I can condense down how to get from climbing V3 to V13 into 1 hour. I mean, probably even shorter, right?
Yeah.
Probably even shorter. A coach is getting paid by the hour.
Right. That's a bad career choice.
Well, right. But so the point is the coaches...
the incentive structure is wrong.
The incentive structure is to supervise you doing exercises.
Yeah.
Because what else could they be doing?
Yeah.
Drills and exercises. That's what coaching is. And
so there's an incentive there even to make the exercises as physically unpleasant as possible, because then you kind of need a drill sergeant there to yell at you to get through.
Right, and that's the other thing coaches.
I don't need a drill sergeant to get me through gripping.
So coaches fundamentally provide structure.
Yeah.
They provide knowledge, but the third thing and the main thing that they're providing to their clients is motivation. And again, we're talking, at the very high end, if you're an Olympic athlete, that's a different situation.
Yeah.
But if that's not you, and you're just like the rest of us, then it's those three things that I mentioned. And the only thing that you can really be providing on an ongoing hourly basis is the structure and the motivation.
Yeah.
Because there's just not enough to know, right? So that's not actually what a coach isn't there to provide you with knowledge, because the knowledge transfer portion of that can take place in a relatively short period of time. Realistically, right? It's going to take place in a short period of time. So they're there to provide you structure and motivation.
It's not a book, it's a chapter.
Yeah, exactly. And so the focus on weight training is just obvious.
Yeah.
Can I get a little weight?
That's either Sam or that's Duke.
Duke of Haley is the username.
What up, Sam? What up, Duke?
I'm 6 foot, 195 from a few years of focused on bodybuilding and powerlifting, and it has always annoyed me when my climbing friends think I'm so good on X, overhanging boulder or whatnot, because I'm, in quotes, strong. Repping out 275 on a bench has literally inverse correlation to climbing, but they can't see it. All that strength I have from my strength training background is roughly worthless at the grades I climb, 512 in my gym. I've been applying your advice and just keeping it simple and doing grip training after climbing, and I've noticed pretty significant improvements.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, there was a fellow down in the gym that was same thing, like weight training for years, big guy, started climbing, and the bench press didn't do a ton for his climbing.
Yeah.
It was all grip all the time.
Well, I mean, it's true, okay? I mean, like, bodybuilders are increasingly, getting into rock climbing. Or check out Magnus Mitbo's channel for details.
Every week he's got a new
Every week he's got a new freak from some other discipline coming and trying rock climbing, right? And even like Olympic level gymnasts and stuff like this.
Yeah, which originally we looked at the gymnasts like that's the solution.
Well, we used to
just like us.
We used to think that, right? And those Olympic level gymnasts, you can't get physically. I mean, that pretty well answers. Actually, you know what? We could have just the whole podcast could have just been watch that video.
Yeah,
that Magnus Mitbo did.
Yeah.
Olympic level gymnasts, you cannot get physically stronger specimens in exactly the ways you think would be useful for climbing.
Yeah.
And they're total dog shit.
Yeah. Now, to be fair,
I mean,
they've got a reasonable base to some degree.
But they're shockingly bad.
Yeah,
shockingly
totally.
bad at rock
Yeah,
climbing. Shockingly bad. And and they, they don't transition quick, right? Even some of those guys who like get into climbing,
Totally.
like they often don't make pro climbers. Like they're pro gymnasts and then they never become pro climbers.
Yeah, totally. And there are other things where if you're an Olympic if you're just below Olympic level sprinter, you can move to football.
Well, yeah, but that's because
because there's
no complexity in football.
Exactly.
Right, like it's the same event.
Right. You can't. Exactly. You can't do it in climbing.
No.
And if climbing had, another principal strength component that really, really, really mattered, you'd see gymnasts doing way better than they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The only thing
exactly.
they're lacking, the only thing they're plausibly lacking, or not, the
Well,
only
no,
thing
they're
that's
not. They're
much
not,
better. They're way
they're-
better than professional climbers in every single aspect.
They're better than pro climbers in every aspect physically,
except grip.
except grip.
And they don't even have sloppy.
And
they don't even have terrible.
Well, they
grip.
do pommel horse.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
you look at their hands; they've got fucking.
Their grip is reasonable, but
Yeah.
it's because it's wrist flexors, not finger flexors.
Yeah, totally.
Right? It's not elite specialized grip for gripping rocks.
Yeah.
They don't have, they don't have any thumbs.
Yeah.
And they don't have finger flexors.
What's really, again, I mean, you kind of made this point a second ago, but like, it is shocking.
It's shocking how bad they do.
Yeah. I would not have predicted that. My model of the world was incomplete.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was a data point that when you're introduced, at least when I was first introduced to it, I needed to spend a lot of time thinking on, because my model of how I understood climbing was not complete.
A lot of us, it defaulted to variations on gymnast exercises.
Yeah.
Because we thought that was a solution. And boy, that didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out.
That didn't tend to be the.
Didn't work out. All right. That Stella is a cuddle bug.
Yeah. This is absurd.
Oh, here's a long one. Adding another perspective to this. If you have reached your recovery capacity of your fingers, but you still have time and energy for training, then it only makes sense, for example, to do pulling work, which doesn't help on your current climbing grade, at least may help you in the future on a different sort of problem, or at least reduce your likelihood of injury. I often see pro climbers do insane moves on rock that would be beyond my limit, not because of their finger strength and technique. Well, no, it is. It actually, trust us, it is.
Or no, don't trust us. You shouldn't trust anybody.
Yeah, don't
you know what I mean? Like at some
don't trust,
point,
don't trust.
This is too.
No, I agree. Don't trust.
Two guys on a shinny pad in the woods.
But I'm just telling you though. No, but legitimately, you're watching.
I know. The
difficulty. Like, if you understand the difficulty of what's being on display in professional climbers on those climbs, we're not pulling the start holds.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Like, realistically, right? So, but I understand the point though.
Sure.
So I'll finish reading because
and this was this was also, I thought, again,
it's a good comment.
A good comment.
Yeah.
That,
I often see pro climbers do insane move on rocks that would be beyond my limit, not because of finger strength and technique, but instead because of heel hook strength, or alternatively, shoulders. Just considering you may need years of consistent work to reach that level of strength in some muscles and connective tissue, would it not make sense to start training earlier so that you don't have to wait another 5 years to climb your future proj?
Again, that is, it sounds like a reasonable point, but you're going to get that work. You're going to get appropriate volume through climbing to deal with heel hook or some complex shoulder, extreme shoulder move.
Yep.
And if you don't, at that point, hit the supplemental. But I think the crazy thing is,
especially starting out. Well, the idea, I guess I think I have a coherent formulation. The idea that you're going to train to shoulder strength at the level of those elite requirements in advance of needing them in that one discipline, and yet somehow your finger strength lags that.
Yeah.
If you're able to train your shoulders or your hamstrings to that level, that elite level, while your fingers are there too, because obviously you've been putting even more time in on your fingers, right?
Yeah.
So it's simply not possible to develop that level of strength in some other aspect required for rock climbing and not already be an elite rock climber, right?
Yeah. And it also, like you said, there's fucking 600 muscles in the body. You're gonna train every single muscle, and the off chance that there's no time. Like, all of this, look, we live in a game that's constrained by time. Everybody does. You get a few freaks that have princes or whatever, and
lucky circumstance.
Yeah, lucky circumstance, and they got a lot of time to kill. I don't. I got shit to do. And again, look.
Well, I mean, I'm going to throw it out there. The thing is, because in order to get that hamstring strength, you're in the gym literally doing legs.
Yeah.
Like just about the most useless time in the gym.
And remember, it's not
for a rock
the
climber.
hamstring strength, because eventually you're gonna have to stick a toe on something, and so you got to do quads, and then
Exactly.
right? What about your Achilles tendon? So you got to do calves and your toes. There's a lot of muscles down the toes.
I've had some pretty damn hard toe hooks.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so I got to do ankle dorsiflexion too.
We both had periods, or at least, I mean, I have, and I'm pretty sure.
Well, right here on full clip, my toe when I started the project wasn't strong enough.
I think I remember some kind of freak machine for toe hooking strength. Yes. Given the time constraints I have in my life, I'm not preemptively training toe hooks. And toe hooks were a bigger failure point than back.
So the thing is that climbing is ultimately a full body exercise. You are going to use, the full repertoire of human movement on truly in rock climbing, and so you can justify.
You're going to do weird moves no other human has ever done before.
Yeah, that only exists in rock. There is movement that only exists in rock climbing.
Yeah.
Even our gymnast friends wouldn't encounter.
Yeah.
You can't. You're not. The idea that you're going to be able to just
preemptively train
all of those future needs.
And remember, every muscle that you want to train to have measurable muscle gain, without the assistance of the trend sandwiches, is a year of consistent hard training.
That's right. Yeah.
Twice a week, 3 times a week in the gym for that muscle.
Yeah.
And it's
and remember, a year of consistent hard hypertrophy focused training.
Yeah.
You're still a novice.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, again, and I want to make this point because we didn't make it last time. Like, this is how I think about climbing. If you watch it and it's not resonating with you, cool. Like, there's a lot of other people who have other ideas about climbing. You know what I mean? It's a couple lunatics in the woods. Like, yeah, I mean,
yeah, but people know.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean,
look, people only get triggered when
it's
when you're challenging their core beliefs, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's
with a kernel of truth.
Yeah.
Like the angry response, and there hasn't been many.
Yeah, there's been
there's been very, very few.
Right.
But the negative responses, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've spent my time. I put my time in the troll mines.
Exactly. I gotta make sure we're still good. All right. So here's a comment that we do need to address. Which underperforming climber were you talking about popular on Reddit?
Okay. So
I'm gonna go a different tact here. I talk about cases at work all the time. Right. I'm talking about patients. Okay.
Hit him with the HIPAA logic.
It's part of the profession. The whole point is that it's an anonymized case study that you can learn from. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we're not. It's if I see a case at work, you don't come on the internet and start
let me tell you about this person X Y Z, and it's
by their name, Mr. So and so.
Yeah, so you can go bother them
with their with the crazy thing they showed up with, and the thing that they did that was like
the glass bottle in the bowels.
Exactly. Okay. Right. Okay. So that's a good example, right? So, it's a recurring case in the hospital. Somebody has to come to the operating room to have a foreign body extracted from their rectum. And you might want to talk. You might be doing a talk on foreign body extraction from the rectum.
Yeah.
And you might want to talk about the differences in the foreign body, the size, the different presentations you've seen, the nuance, and how to get it out. Which ones require a laparotomy? Which ones you can do with a rigid scope?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot to be learned from foreign bodies in the rectum. None of which would involve coming on here and naming the people.
Yeah, totally.
Like
so you could go bother this guy in the street.
Well, it's an insane thing, right? If we're going to bring up an example for a point, it's going to be, done in that professional way. I'm not going to, I'm not going to bring up so and so. You know
what I mean? It's just sort of it's rude, and are you going to trust the anecdote if you get a name on it? Like it's and you can study it yourself. To some degree, I understand the inclination to want to be able to study it yourself, but
as a scientist,
but it's an insane thing to do. To be like,
Yeah. Okay, this is another good one. Long. I think many people are terrible at getting the intensity right to make appropriate physiological changes to efficiency to improve climbing just by climbing. With weights, it's very easy for someone to become athletic in a completely brain-dead way. Also, weights are very time efficient. People often end up doing junk mileage or the same style of problem they like and bottleneck their physiologic adaptations. I think if you want to be a promoter of just climb, you should also be discussing what the most effective form of just climbing is. Education on RPE, energy systems, muscle groups in a just climb context would go a long way for the physical side of things. I do overall agree that just climbing is the best overall approach for most people. I mean, I did, first of all, I did a whole YouTube series literally on what was asked for there.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's like,
what I would say is that that entire comment was basically valid.
yeah,
I actually don't disagree with anything.
Yeah. Everybody knows somebody that does a lot of junk mileage and never gets any better.
Yeah.
And if just climbing was the solution, it's like, all right, number one, it's just climbing and grip.
Yeah,
and grip.
and grip.
Like, and I think that's happened in a few of the questions where it's like, well, just it's like, no, just climb and grip. Grip is like carrying a lot of weight there. Maybe,
in terms of progress?
Yeah.
More.
Yeah, exactly.
Just climbing, you'll plateau.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like,
if you want to carry on with persistent long-term progress, that's actually not the just
right. And so I think this is where they're emphasizing the wrong things or they're reading the wrong things into it. We're getting caught in the battle of weight training, measurable growth, science versus just climb, hippy dippy, desert rat shit, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's half, just climb, do the real thing, and the other half, like grip. Did you see the spreadsheet? Like, did you see the tracking?
No, he didn't. He's not a subscriber.
All right.
They're underestimating.
The tracking is absurd. Like, I tried to reverse engineer the tracking. It's insane.
As a literal data scientist.
As somebody who spends a lot of time trying to pick apart.
What Ben is referring to is I made a video for, on the member side of things where I actually showed just what a grip workout looks like for me, a typical workout.
Yeah. Not a lot of hippy dippy just climb.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking bullshit floating around there. It's
and this person this comment also suggests to me they're not familiar with the grip game series, right? Yeah. Like, I could be doing more educational content and so on.
I mean, it was fully Green Goblin face.
Yeah, there's no such thing as passive training
to get to that workout and still talk to the camera. So like,
that's quite an inside statement.
Yeah. This is inside baseball. Only 100
yeah.
people are gonna get this or whatever. But
yeah. All right, hold on. We gotta have a cookie. We're gonna warm up the hands. We're taking a cookie break. That's been a marathon.
Yeah, no, fuck, Jesus.
I live in the UAE, and just watching the background is painful. You are lucky to live close to such stunning places.
Yeah, dog, I live in Los Angeles. No fucking shit.
Yeah, Ben spends most of his year in downtown Los Angeles riding public transit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not trying to get you deplatformed, so I'm gonna keep some of my opinions to myself there. But yeah, it's fucking sick up here for sure.
Yeah, it's not lost on me. There's nowhere I'd rather be than here. I come out here not even to climb, just to chill.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more. Also super cool that somebody's checking us out from UAE. That is like literal. Yeah, like we could drill a hole, I think, through the planet. Like that stupid movie.
Yeah. There's several.
Yeah, there's several. The reboot of the reboot of Total Recall.
Yeah.
It was terrible, but anyway, they had like a shuttle.
Yeah, I remember that. I kind of liked it. It wasn't as good as the first one, but
that was the issue.
Yeah. It had that's a hard standard to live up to.
Yeah.
What was the that like Krang belly?
What do you want, Mr. Quay?
Well, to go back to that guy who's having a boring time gripping, fucking hit that Total Recall.
Yeah, hit Total Recall.
That's good for like a week at least.
This is from a local Tristan. Shout out. I enjoyed this. I think Ben's point about how you climb is critical, though. I am a guy pulling on that one hard move over and over again and never getting stronger as a result. I switched to the rope gym in part to rehab my addiction. Also, it can be hard indoors to find problems that really push you physically. Often, even hard ones have somewhere to put a heel or something that just lets you climb without anything close to max strength. It ends up being a lot of tricky moves that don't actually force adaptation. The advice of climb falls short for those folks who climb 2 to 3 times per week and are stuck on a plateau. I think there's a lot of advice on how. Okay, before you jump in, I mean,
No, okay, no. Look, I'm going to be gentlemanly here.
No. I mean, you missed half of the advice. Just climb.
And grip, motherfuckers!
And grip! And grip! You're not plateaued because you're one repping.
Yeah.
Hey!
The problem is, climbing is, in our experience, climbing is sufficient stimulus for your back and buys.
Exactly.
Not your fucking grip.
Not your hands.
Your grip needs more work. It always needs more work.
Well, it's also that you don't get the stimulus correct. So
100%.
The point is the root setting doesn't actually give you correct stimulus for your hands. Never can, never will. But outdoor doesn't either, because you're just not going to hit the same muscle type over and over and over again.
You just can't get the dose right.
You can't exactly. You can't get the dose right, and so I think there's something else though to the question there that
another point I was going to bring up.
Well, the point is that if you're struggling with the root setting at your gym, because remember, root setting is designed to keep customers happy, not to make climbers strong. Yeah. That's the goal of your average commercial gym, is not to generate a generation of strong climbers. It's to keep people paying their membership dues, right? And those are at odds sometimes.
They're drug dealers, not doctors.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, doctors are kind of drug.
yeah.
So,
I mean, they're,
okay.
I know what you're saying. But anyway, so there's a problem with the root set. But if you're having that problem with your local root setting, then board climbing. Right.
Yeah, board climbing.
It allows you to dose a lot more specifically, and you can also do and board climbing. They're short, but you can do classic 4x4s board climbing. There's lots of stuff you can do.
You can have. I mean, look,
spray walls are another option.
At this point, I've got my own beef with the gym I climb at, particularly by my work, and so I climb on the board there basically exclusively. They set the wall that I like climbing on, they set about once a month. Get out of my pockets. And other than that, I'm basically just climbing the board. And the only thing sort of like keeping me halfway sane is board climbing and, the micro and the crusher.
Yeah. So grip.
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 And if you asked me to give up one of those, it wouldn't be the grip.
It wouldn't be the grip. It'd be
I could get by with the micro crusher.
I can answer that. I had 2 surgeries in the last several years. The post-op recovery involved literally not being able to walk for the first week.
Yeah.
And then walking with like a cane for a couple weeks after that. I just gripped, and my climbing strength didn't
change.
It didn't. Well, I kept progress. I made progress.
Yeah, totally.
I was rusty starting. I was rusty starting back out.
Yeah.
But then I went on to send. Both sessions I went on to send harder than ever.
Yeah.
The
correlation
that was months with no climbing.
The correlation between grip gains and like climbing hard outside is always positive.
Yeah.
With like campusing or whatever, like.
Yeah.
And I've had at this point, like I still love climbing, but I spend a lot more time than I did here doing science because the climbing gym doesn't have the draw.
Doesn't engage.
It doesn't engage me in the same way, and I can make reasonable progress after 6 years.
Well, you can feel like
low motivation just off.
Well, you're keeping the hand strong so that
exactly.
so that in the future, when your circumstances improve, you still have your love of climbing to come back to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even now. It's funny. My brain's changed a little bit. We've sort of switched places to some degree where I've got more motivation in terms of like grip progress because I know it's not. I'm not chasing something that doesn't have
Direct
a
application,
tangible high correlation effect on my climbing, right?
Yeah. You want to go? Why don't we just settle you in here?
God, look at this fucking critter. Like, honestly.
We have thanks for this episode and the nuanced discussion. I'm looking forward to your response to some of the Q&A, especially around strength training as a proactive measure for injury prevention, basically allowing a higher lifetime climbing volume and skill development because you are less afraid of exploding your shoulders. And so
I like that comment.
Well,
Exploding your shoulders is a nice nice fucking phrase.
I mean, that just summarizes.
Yeah, I think we kind of hit that.
We've hit that to death. But I added, I responded directly online. I'm an older climber, and I started late. I'm still on the upslope of my performance curve. Every season has been better than the last in terms of what I've accomplished climbing-wise. I'm obsessed with 3 things: climbing, gripping, and not getting injured. Right? Because at my stage,
well, and I would even say it's like not getting injured, gripping, and then climbing is like, obviously climbing is the prime motivator, but those are the rules.
Yeah.
Don't fucking get injured.
Yeah.
Do your fucking grip. Go climbing. And I will say,
setbacks, especially when you're sort of the older that you get, the more that an injury or setback it's hard to bounce back from, and it takes having those surgeries that put me fully out, and then getting back and then exceeding my previous performance.
Oh, it's brutal.
It's a massive psychological.
And I will
effort.
say, to some degree, look around and look at people who are like you, who are injured, and try to figure out where their injuries. Like, look at their bodies, figure out their body size, figure out ones that look like you, and kind of use them as test cases about where you might get injured. I think because
that's its own topic.
Yeah. All right,
I'm going to interject and cut that one off. That is a vast topic.
Yeah. Totally.
We could talk about forever,
Totally.
But it's a topic that is near and dear, and I'm as obsessed with everything.
Just as like a very short statement.
But I don't actually like going. I delved into that topic one time on YouTube, and I regretted it immensely.
Yeah.
And so I'm staying away from it.
Fair enough.
It's a tar baby. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't agree more with the comment though. Oh yeah. So this is the commenter, Andrew Arthur 45, who asked the original question that prompted us to do a podcast episode, like the inaugural podcast episode. Anyway, so Andrew Arthur 45 says, "Thanks for answering my question. Lots of great points made. Like you said, your channel has been a source of reason in the madness for me. Also, this video was the last evidence I needed for my neurodiversity."
He's subscribed?
Yeah.
Yeah, dog, you're subscribed. That's the R squared value there is nearing 1 at this point.
I said the autism screening questionnaire, the standard test that's used, only has a sensitivity of 77%. Being a Mobeta insider, it's a sensitivity of 100%. So you're among friends. All right, man.
Let's actually climb some shit.
Let's go put our models of reality to the test.
Yeah, I mean,
it's good temps.
It is good temps, but
it's austere here today.
It's a better Gavin day than it's likely to be a climbing day for sure.
Yeah.
Plus side, still got cookies.
One cookie.
2 cookies for the king of the marshmallow test.